I've been around this place.
Upgraded.
I've been around this place long enough to know you're not going to get diddly
What you
jig.
getting?
Maybe a bottle of water. That's about it.
I don't see any water.
I know. I bring my
Who's letting us down?
brought my own. You know.
Who has a budget for food for you guys, but he's
Keeping it aside. You're in your retirement?
Blame him. Yes?
What does Washington do well? I mean, what stands out in Washington's game?
Well, they have some explosive athletes. Obviously, Ross is as good as there is in the league in terms of when he gets going. He's really, really good. He can create a shot for himself, and he can really shoot the ball, as is evidenced by 27 second half points. Roten is probably as good a penetrator as there is in the league. He can get to the basket almost when he wants. He's got a great hesitation move. They're a very good offensive rebounding team. They always have been. They're very, very physical, particularly at home, where they seem to get a little more leeway that way. But they, he had 22 offensive rebounds yesterday, which kept him in the game. So they get a lot of emotion from their crowd at home and have been very difficult for people to beat there.
Are they any different without Wilcox?
One less shooter, yeah. I mean, it's one less place to go. Wilcox is percentage-wise probably the best shooter, although Ross is a guy that's capable of just going off. But yeah, it definitely affects him. And you know, they had Suggs too. So with Suggs out, you know, if Wilcox is out, and I don't know what his status would be, then that's just one less shooter, and of course that affects him.
When you hear something like that, like, you know, Coach Romer said Wilcox might play, do you guys plan as if he's going to play, or?
Sure, yeah. Suppose I asked him about injury. Did you call up and ask about injuries?
I read the Seattle Times
Okay.
online. Have you ever been on the web?
On the who?
Yeah.
Why would I do that? I buy the newspaper.
There you
I
go.
look for stuff, which
Here it comes.
probably shouldn't do that because there's no information. I mean,
We're hiding our best stuff on the
you
internet.
know, so seriously, I mean, I don't mean about us. I'm just talking about in general. I mean, but people don't use that anymore for information. Anyway, I don't know about Wilcox. You have to figure he's going to be in there or read between the lines.
Are they different defensively this year without some of the guys you've had in the past? They've had some really tough guys on the perimeter.
Roten is really good at stealing the ball, but those two little guards were very, very capable of causing havoc out there. They're still physical. Aziz is a big guy, and you know, so they're still physical, and they do overplay. I would suspect that they've probably had a few more games than they're accustomed to where they've not been as aggressive as they normally would be.
Some of that just because they're pretty young.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Gaddy coming off an injury, Roten being a freshman, and there's some youth there. You know, maybe not quite the depth that they've had in the past where they just keep running guys in. So they've probably had less games where they've just gotten after it, but they did in the second half last night.
And you've had some difficulty with teams sort of like them in the sense of teams that are very aggressive, physical, quick, the Missouri UNLV type teams. Are these guys like that or not so much? Or?
Well, we had difficulty with them too because of their offense and how well they shot the ball. But yeah, I mean, athletic teams generally give people problems. You know, we don't really have a guard that just can break you down and get by in a one-on-one situation. So that means we have a premium on being able to enter the offense and do what we do. But those teams are generally difficult for everybody.
Has
What about
Brandon been able to go at all?
Who?
Brandon?
I keep saying I think so, but he hasn't passed the test. You know, we get another I think so today. I mean, he's got to take the test again. It's not, he's answering everything right. It's just his reaction time is not quite what it needs to be. In other words, you say, what's 1 and 1? And he says 2, but it takes him a little longer than
Takes them half second as opposed to.
when you add all the time up that it takes him to answer all the questions. His reaction time is not as good. So he's very close, but until he's there, I'll believe it when I see it.
Hamster's running, it's just not running as fast as it needs to.
Apparently.
Is Cobb someone you can use to counteract what you're talking about with Washington as far as a guard who can?
Well, he's strong, but he's not, point of attack, he's not as likely to be able to get by people with quickness. Justin is doing a good job and has done a better job. There is, I think, for most of us in the league, a little bit difference, the confidence level we have on the road versus at home, and that's something that's going to be critical for the teams at the top of the league to be able to solve that. Oregon got 2 nice road wins, but that's going to be something that we're all going to have to deal with.
When you look at the unbalanced schedule, I know you've always been a big fan of the strict double round robin that you had for years and years and like that. Now you don't have that. Is it put a premium on like playing Washington this game because it's the only chance you have at them?
Well, it's not so much them. I think ultimately, and we're way too early to make this determination, but somebody's going to say, I didn't get to play them twice, and that might be a team that proved not to be as good a team. So that might be construed to be a second win for somebody if they were able to look at it that way. I think it'll come out in the wash, but that could be a factor for
The
somebody.
flip side is that I had to play these guys twice. That's the other way.
Well, again, you can drive yourself crazy. This is like you're going to ask at some point who's going to go in the NCAA tournament. It's the same deal. Nobody knows, but let's say that, let's hypothesize and say that the California-Stanford road trip is a difficult road trip. So if you don't have to make that road trip, that might be to your advantage, because that's maybe a road trip where there's a little more difficulty getting a road win than somewhere else might be. And I'm saying might because I'm not saying absolutes. So that's the only way somebody could look at it and say, well, I would have had another win had I had that team a second time where they had that team and we didn't.
And as a coach, there's really obviously nothing you can do.
Nothing you can do, no point worrying about it.
It doesn't change anything
Nope.
in the approach, right?
Nope.
How has, in the time he's been in the starting, Cobb's, you happy with his overall game and what he's contributed?
Yeah, no question. I think, he's getting better. He hasn't played for a year. He didn't play a whole lot in Minnesota. He did play, but he wasn't, probably wasn't playing 20 plus minutes as a freshman. So then last year he was out, so this is really his first year where he's been full time, and I think he's starting to figure out what we need and what he can and can't do. And having a third scorer out there in the perimeter makes a difference, I think. He's been able to make critical shots. He's able to get to the basket, and he's strong. He's a really good foul shooter. So all those things are pluses. Is he necessarily although with 11 assists, you could question, but I mean, I don't know that his first thought process is necessarily pass, but he's gotten better at it.
Are you encouraged that you've been able to play more people maybe a little bit lately and they play better at times?
Yeah, I've never been a guy that's just played people to play people. I think, we played 9 or 10 guys in the first half, a couple games now, and I thought that's helped us. Just from the standpoint, if you did then have to go back with them in a second half, they would have been in the game and would have had a feel for it. I think that can be important.
Is the other benefit of that to keep your starters fresher from
Yeah, there's been some, 35 plus minute games, which you'd prefer not to have, but it's with Brandon out, probably didn't have a lot of choices.
How are you trying to manage Jorge's minutes? I mean, is that?
Well, again, we used Emerson. Generally when Jorge's going well, sometimes Jorge gets frustrated, and sometimes I think it helps him just to sit out a little bit and kind of cool off a little bit and get re-engaged. But Jorge does so much for us, you kind of need him in there, it seems to me, if you're going to be as good as you can.
Last week, you talked about some changes that were affecting Harper's offensive production, but he had 2 really strong games this last week. Did you put him in different positions, or was he
Little
just
bit.
more confident?
A little bit, yeah. I think, we needed another score. It was against Colorado with nobody shooting the ball in the hole. I think guys started looking a little bit more for somebody else, and so we moved him a little bit, not a lot. We'll continue to tweak the offense, see if we can't find him different ways to get him away from the basket, and hopefully he can continue to score 14 a game. We good? We'll have lunch if you stick around.
Even if he has to make it himself.
Well, the guy's going to stick around for lunch, so I told him you had it for him.
We have soda, I think that's something.
Peanut butter sandwich?
Soda. What might soda be?
That's good.
Like
Sorry, guys, nothing. We got water and brisk iced tea.